within our universe or what have you, that in turn, yes, if they can certainly travel from however many light years away they are from us, then obviously they have gotten to a point in their civilization and so forth, and that they have advanced quite a bit farther than we are, at least as far as technology goes. And if they're more advanced in technology, then more than likely they would have overcome a great many things that currently causes a tremendous amount of chaos within our reality, per se.
So, Richard, how do you think or feel that the news, the press, everything else steps in before the government can shut it down, of direct contact in public and wherever the craft or the beings come in? How our government is going to handle it, and or some of those that don't have much of a government. Do you have any personal feelings on how you think that's going to go? What's going to happen?
I think the majority of governments may be open-minded to the extent as long as they do not feel in any way threatened. Yeah. Now, of course, I mean, there's lots of places in Africa that do not have formal governments per se. There are lots of countries that have governments, but they don't have the same ranking of communication that we enjoy on a daily basis. They don't have all the news services and all that kind of so forth. As a matter of fact, it's our news service that often tries to cover the world to some large extent in reaching out to bring news or to get the news of what's going on in a given particular area out to the rest of the world. I would hope that there would be no overt control of the press. I would hope that the press, would be allowed to make public announcement over the airwaves, regardless of what radio station or regardless of what television station it happens to be, hopefully several at the same time, so that in turn these broadcasts can in turn themselves make an announcement worldwide that this is what is going on and that is being received on a peaceful basis, and that there's no need to feel, threatened by them or so on and so forth, and maybe even, put them directly on camera and allow them themselves to introduce themselves and this kind of thing, rather than being all closed door where they land and they're suddenly rushed into the White House and all the doors are closed as to what's going on. You see what I'm saying? That secrecy thing. I think it is a point in time that we do need, to share such knowledge commonly.
The main thing is to try to prevent panic, because we, and I'm saying you, myself, and DJ and others, we have been in, and I'll use the word contact, but with intelligence in the form of not just the education, but in science, and I'm sure that there are other branches, astronomy and those folks, that they have a lot more knowledge that they're dealing with. But now here we are in a position with radio, which we're doing now, and to start putting out information, and I think it'll be a little bit not real slow, because so let's face it, they land at the White House like they've had the science fiction movies and things. It's always been kind of a panic. But when we have had all these years of science fiction movies, good ones, not the panic ones, and our other forms of how our universe was put together and where we think that there would be other intelligence, if it can be made public slowly like that. By slowly, I mean it's been going on slowly, and I think that's been slow enough. But my source is correct with regards to before the end of this year that we are in right now, that it'll be the main subject everybody's talking about, where we are, who came in and landed where or what have you, what is the story they're bringing into us, what's going to be our next step, is it going to stop the wars and things that are going on even right now. And that's a problem when you have Homo sapiens sapiens, that someone has the way to get the biggest club and beat those around them to where they're just, you know, what I'm saying is if those that are dictators, those that want to have all the power and control themselves, they're the ones that we will have the most difficult with, not the aliens. So hopefully they'll be in a position to, hadn't thought about that until I was asked to talk and discussing with you, but wouldn't it be nice if the ETs could just simply have a pre-programmed, they produce it over a radio or television base, where those that have the attitude that they're going to control all the humans on this planet get frozen, kind of, you know, where they can't talk. So we'll get them for a while, I mean, until we can get the whole world in the position of realizing that maybe deity has decided it's time for us to learn that we are not the only intelligent species in the universe, and that our Creator purposely made more at different times, so that we are at a point now of becoming part of the family of intelligent beings throughout the whole universe. I guess had the, it sounds like you have too, the pleasure of, let's say abduction, I guess, if that's a good term. You want to elaborate a little bit on what your experience was, or if it's old, you've already talked about it. That I'm a little slow on that, but I'll be happy to step in and start with mine. But why don't you tell me how you feel that you've had direct contact?
Well, I was only 5 years old, okay, and I was swinging on a swing, and I was swinging as high as I could swing, and I wanted to touch tree branch with the soles of my feet. Of course, I was wearing tennis shoes at the time, but I was swinging and swinging and swinging, and all of a sudden, a grand arc of light, like a tremendous spotlight, was shining down on me, and the next thing I know, I was no longer in the seat of the swing. I was then transported somehow, whether it be by the light energy or whether by what means exactly, I cannot tell you, because naturally I had no perception of it at 5 years old. But I was brought aboard some kind of very large craft. I could only see the bottom of it, and the next thing I knew, I was inside the craft itself. And I was standing at first, and there were beings. Some of them were green, some of them were blue in color, and basically, yeah, they had arms and legs and heads and eyes just like we do. They were not of the same physical constitution as we are, but at the same time, I felt that I was being welcomed, and that I was not afraid. I didn't have a fear reaction at all. And I was laid out on kind of like a metal table or what have you. And they were standing around me and looking at me and so on and so forth. And I was not alone. There were many other children in many other table kind of situations with bright lights over them and so forth. And I don't remember exactly what all went on, because I guess, they put me to sleep or something, or did something anyway, but I felt very different as I began to wake up. And as I began to wake up, I was no longer on the swing. I was now back in my bed inside the place that I was actually residing at. So I had, incontrovertible proof that obviously something had happened, that it wasn't just my imagination, that in fact I had gone from being on a swing set out in the yard to all of a sudden being in my bed, in my bedroom at the Catholic boarding school where I was actually living at the time. But there were, as far as I know, there were no other witnesses, because obviously this happened. How long exactly it happened, I don't know. All I know is that it had gone from being like sunset to being dark. So, obviously it had transited into night. So who knows? In our time frame, maybe at 2 or 3 hours. obviously in their time frame, maybe a minute or two. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because I can't say how they would measure time or not measure time. All I know is that when I returned, a very short time after, I was sequestered, basically because I was gifted, so I was a telepath and I could read minds and this kind of thing. So they treated me very differently from the rest of the children. And they more or less, instead of sending me to school per se, they sent me upstairs to a library. And this library had thousands of books, and it had a couch, you know, where I could sit and so forth. And I would pull books from the library, and I would begin reading them. And a lot of these books were written in different foreign languages, and it didn't matter what language I came upon, I could actually read it. And so I became what you would classify as a savant of languages, and I could read, speak, write, and understand 14 different languages. And this went on for a while. I don't know exactly when it really ceased or if it ever has ceased. Obviously, today I am not fluent in 14 languages, and if that were meant to be part of what the reason that I would have been here for, then obviously I would have joined the United Nations and become a language translator of some kind. But obviously that was not to be. Okay, instead,
right.
My life has been very interesting. There have been hundreds of experiences with all kinds of different entities and so forth, all kinds of mystical experiences, all kinds of, spiritual journeys and that kind of thing, as well as, of course, as doing civil and criminal investigations, being involved with our government as an inspector with immigration, and different other things of this nature, where I was involved in investigations into other not-so-nice organizations or whatever. But basically, I have continued to always go out of my way to help others. And I think that's probably the main reason that I'm here, is so that I can help others. And maybe, who knows, maybe our helping others is helping people to understand that, yes, this is where we've gotten to. This is where we've come to. This is where we are as a race. This is the next step that we need to take forward, because it's not purely a step forward in greeting other intelligence beings. It's also a step forward in being recognized as an intelligence race, and that race joining, like you could say, a brother-sisterhood of the galaxy or of the universe, where there are lots of other intelligent races from lots of different planets and lots of different galaxies and universes. And so it's kind of like you said, being welcomed into a family. And as a result of that, I do see also that we are going to step forward on a conscious basis. We are going to become more consciously aware in a very hard to describe or put into words aspect, other than to say that vibrationally and frequency-wise, our vibration will rise, so that in turn we are more consciously aware of things and more consciously connected to each other on a conscious level than we are currently, because currently, naturally, we treat each other as purely individuals, and I think it's this individualism and the separateness that basically creates all of the problems that we have to a large extent, because like you said, one given individual wants to seize power and have dominion over a given set of people or a given culture or a given country or what have you. And that has basically been historically the way we have been. There has really been, excuse me, no grand reaching out other than through the UN and, of course, compacts and treaties and compromises and things of this nature, where you have our government acknowledging other governments around the world and working together to some limited extent. If we step out of that and say, okay, we are all one race and we are all brothers and sisters of that race, we can therefore reach out openly to aid each other in a much larger